I'm Ed Schultz. I'm Colonial Williamsburg's historic farmer. This is Rachel West, a longtime volunteer with historic farming. What we're going to talk about today is not horses, a little bit about horses, but we're going to talk about weed killing. We use two methods to do that. We use implements with the horse to do it and a hoe. But we're going to start with a horse. This is the ultimate weed killing machine here. All right, so the horse is the power source here. The implement is behind him. Starting with the horse here. Right up here, this right here is the bridle here, and that's our steering wheel. Thank you, buddy. It goes to the bit, and that's the lines right here is what directs the horse. Okay, flowing back here is a collar that goes around his shoulders, right? It gives him a pad to push on. A horse actually pushes the load. He doesn't pull it. Push transferred to pull. You'll kind of get that in a minute here. Connected to it is the hames that fit snugly. All right, look back here, and you see these right here. These are the traces. All right, there's one on each side here. There's this one, and then there's this one over here. Again, these are the lines. For right now, I'm just going to set them on right up here. As Rachel's got the horse and she's holding them, I don't have to hold the lines. You need to connect all this apparatus here, the harness, to the plow here. And a little bit about this plow here. If you look at it right here, this is the business part right here, the point. The point is what does all the work. It breaks out the weeds and plows up the soil, often covering them, but sometimes just cutting them. We have some video of that, of the plow in action, but first I want to show you the movement of the plow as we go forward facing the camera. Why don't you roll that right now? And I'll plow along the right side of the plants, and then I'll come back along the right side of the plants again. Then, if it's wide enough, I plow out the center. You can see close up how that plow point goes through there and just moves dirt. All right, so you saw it moving through the soil, busting it out just as easy could be. All right, now I want to show you how to hook up this again. Here's the traces right here. I need to connect it to the single tree right here. What I do, hook the chains to it. All right, I come on over here. Remember, they're dividing the horse. The horse is in the center. All right, I hook right there. Okay, so we're almost ready to go here. All right, now I got the lines. Now, Rachel will not be leading the horse when we're actually doing this in the field. I'll be actually doing it. And there's some tricks to it here. I'll move this over here a little bit. Now, see the knot here? You tie the knot on these lines, and the knot goes behind your back. Look how they are right here. All right. See, I have control of the lines here. That knot fits somewhere in my back. I know about where it is here. And I need to get proper tension like that. And the way you do it is you just say, get up, and you start plowing it out. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pull forward. I want you to watch how this plow works and how casual it is. And then we're going to roll video about proper form. You're going to see how it's like walking down the street. All right. All right, Eli, get up. Oop. Oop. All right, if you saw that video there, it's what the video will show just strolling down the street. So if good posture here is standing up and just walking like this, okay? If you're bent down going like this, it's rough work. It can be real rough on you. All right, now, as Rachel's tied up the horse, I think we'll merge Have you seen that video? They're a proper form. It's casual as could be. All right, what we're going to do is now shift to showing you how to use hoes. All right, the next arsenal in our warfare, as natural-born weed killers that we are, we have several different kinds of hoe, 3 different kinds of hoes. The first one here is called the Grub Hoe. We don't use this very often, but when we do, it's like for roots or really tight ground, and we'll use it in an action like this, just like you use a mattock or something like that. You see it really gets into it. It's narrow, and it can do that quite easily. But the usual hoe that we use, the multi-purpose, if you will, are these. Now, if you look around you here, you can see that the tobacco is on hills. Hopefully you can see that right there. And out here on the corn hills, it's all on hills. We plant in hills. That's how we do it. We use, what do you know, a hilling hoe. That's how we do it. Now, if you look at this one right here, this one has about 10 years wear on it here. This is my hoe. This is my friend right here, and it fits me perfectly. This one right here is my colleague. He just retired here about 5 years ago, and this is about 35 years of wear on it. Look at the difference here. Okay, they do wear out. This is also the favorite hoe of Rachel, and Rachel's going to demonstrate a way that we use to cover up weeds. Now, that's rarely done unless they're very light. If they're very light, if you look at these hills here, there's no weeds on them. But this is demonstration so you can see it. If they were light, what we're going to do is called re-hill. Notice that she uses the corner of the hoe. That's a technique we use. The corner of the hoe can cut in deeper. She goes all the way around and covers them up. That's how we cover the hills right there. All right, sometimes it's really bad. It's really bad, and we get into weed situations, not light stuff like this, but really bad stuff. And I think if we can roll the video on the weed seeds here, you'll see the end of the world. What you saw with the broad hoe over there was light weeds. They're manageable. But if you get to this, see the seed heads here? This is the end of the world, and more vigorous methods are going to be necessary. All right, so what you saw is these terrible, that's pigweed, by the way, these terrible weed seeds, and at times you really need to get into it. Now, that is a situation you don't want, but sometimes it happens. You in your gardens have seen this happen. So more vigorous methods are needed, and that's when you use these again. If you could roll the video on that here of Rachel really getting into it with the hilling hoe. All right, so you saw that, how the hilling hoe can really work up weeds. All right, but most of all, our favorite is this right here. This is called the broad hoe. This is the ultimate weed killer. And this is my personal friend and has been for 19 years. It's well worn. I've probably taken at least 2 inches off it, and what do you know, maybe in 35 years of wear, it'll be down to here. And then it will be done. Okay, so how is this used? Proper form is everything, but we do have a video here that I think we can show of this blade cutting into the earth and knocking out all these weeds. All right, notice how it was chopping into the earth and getting all those weeds out. All right, now proper form is everything with this. Okay, a long time ago, a friend from Kentucky told me, this is in the summer of 1990, I was hoeing down here like this. He said, Ed, one day if you keep hoeing like that, you're not going to be able to stand up. So stand up now. And he showed me some different ways of holding the hoe here. If you look at my hands here, most people hold hoes like that. okay? What I do is put my hand like this. This hand actually moves around, all right? We have some video of that as well, a proper form of me moving through a lot of weeds here. Let's see if we can roll that now. Okay. My body is sort of towards the side, and it's more like this. You see how casual. You can do this all day, and that's the whole idea, is do this all day long. There's plenty of tricks to that. Maybe we can get to those tricks in the question and answer period here. So I think we'll come up a little closer here, and we'll take some questions.
Thank you so much, Ed and Rachel and Eli and everybody for sticking with us. Ed, maybe before we get too deep into things, can we talk about acres a little bit? Help some of us visualize what an acre is, and then maybe, if a farmer is set up without a horse, how much acreage can they expect to be able to maintain? And then, with a horse, what are you looking at?
Sure. Acre, you got to visualize this. And most people, it's pretty hard to do. But if you think of a football field with the end zones, all right, football field with the end zones is about an acre, okay? All right, how much could one person do with a hoe? The records indicate, and that's to get all the weeds out with a hoe, as much, you ready? 10 acres, 10 football fields. They can eliminate the weeds out. But here's the thing, it's not one person and 10 acres. It's work done in groups, okay? Whether that's free or enslaved people, it's done in groups here. So that gives you an idea what you can do with hoes, all right? With a horse, double it, at least double it. Because you saw in the videos how casual that is, just strolling right through, getting the weeds out. The thing is, you have to come back in with the hose and knock out the corners. If you think about it, the horse goes straight. It only goes straight. It doesn't go around those hills. You have weeds on the edge of the hills. So 10 acres with a hoe, at least 20, probably more with a horse.
Brandon was curious about how long would it take to plow this small field here?
Oh, this is pretty easy. Tillable land here at Prentice Field is only about 1/8 of an acre. I'd say 20 minutes here. That's with a horse. Okay, with the hoe, I hoed it out last Saturday about 4 hours.
So Abby was curious about different types of weeds. Are there some that are just a lot harder to get rid of than others?
Oh, great question, Abby. The worst weed in the world is called nutsedge. It's yellow nutsedge. If you don't get out, there's a little nut underneath the earth. If you don't get that thing out and then remove it from the field, it will resprout and resprout and resprout. That's a hard one to get. You should use the corner of the hoe to get down deep and flake that thing out and put it in your pocket. When you walk out of a field with a whole lot of nutsedge, it ought to be in your pocket here. The other one of my worst enemies, is pigweed. Pigweed is terrible, and you saw that in the video before, that pigweed. Same thing, if it's in your garden, chop it out and get that thing out of there, or the weeds will come back, millions of them.
Related to this, I think, is Wendy was curious about what about weeds with really deep tap roots? Or are there special techniques you have to employ for those?
There sure are. Wendy, what you do is you got to use the hoe corner, okay? And you get down into it. You adjust it in your hands, and as a right-hander, I'm going to use the left corner. You got to visualize this sort of the hoe, and you get down deep and flake it out. Get those roots out. You get the roots exposed to the sun, the weed will die. Got to get the roots.
So you mentioned your hands, and Brandon sounds concerned about your hands. So I wanted to know if folks who wear gloves when they're using a hoe, and if not, would you get serious blisters? I noticed you weren't wearing any gloves.
When you're starting out, you may start out like you're going to keep going. Just go ahead and use your bare hands. And I do have a trick when the hoeing season begins. My hands, they've been calloused for a lot of years. but I'll get blisters still in different places. Here's the trick. Move your hand. Okay, so if you're getting a blister in here, move your hand like that on the leading hand, or move your hand like that. Some of the videos you saw me do that. I've got a callus right in here that is about, maybe an 1/8 inch thick. It's actually on that hand right there, from holding the hoe like that for my whole life. Okay, so just go ahead and use your hands. You can't feel it if you don't use your hands. Get rid of the gloves.
All right. So Aaron was curious about the Virginia creeper. Any advice on getting rid of that?
Oh, I know that one. Again, you got to get the roots out. This Virginia creeper is one that you got to bludgeon the thing to death. Okay, cut it out, get the roots exposed as much as you can. Every time it comes up, hit it again and hit it again. If you're not going to use the herbicide, and I don't advise it, you can use the hoe and kill it, but you got to stay on it.
So tell us about Eli. I mean, what makes Eli a good horse for doing this plowing work? What are you looking for in a horse, and how much would a farmer expect to pay for a decent horse to help?
Well, quite a bit. Well, to pay for a horse, you start from the bottom and you just keep going until you can't say stop anymore. They are full range of prices throughout the 18th century. About Eli, if you look at him, you know how he was just standing there. He's not, he's not bored. He's just relaxed. And if you looked at him, sometimes if you see a horse with its foot up like that, that means he's relaxed. Eli's a really good horse because he's calm. He's also attentive. When we're plowing together, his ears are back towards me and he's listening to everything I say. He's also a hard worker. Sometimes early in the year, it takes a little encouragement, not a sharp word, but a little bit of encouragement. And I do a lot of talking to my horses. I think it encourages them, maybe it encourages me, but it seems to work.
So you showed us 3 different types of hoes. What are those based on? Are they based on historical examples? And how are they different, or are they different from the hoe that I could go buy at the hardware store today?
Thanks. That's a really good question. Again, the 3 different ones was the Grub Hoe. It's narrow, and you really get into it. The Hilling Hoe, which is medium size, that's used to rehill, like Rachel showed you. Also to really get into big weeds, and then the broad hoe. Those all are historically accurate based on archaeological as well as written descriptions, but they're all called an eye hoe. If you noticed, the handle fits in the eye, and you can actually go on the internet and find these hoes. This is the predominant kind of hoe used throughout the world. It's called an eye hoe, and you can find it. I've looked into it a couple times, and you can find that different regions of the world like different kind of hoes. You know which kinds I like.
So you mentioned that broad hoe as the ultimate weed killing machine, and I think Eli and the Plow also got credit as the ultimate weed killing machine. I'm sure a lot of folks today, first thought when they are dealing with weeds is some sort of chemical approach.
Yeah.
Is there anything like that in the 18th century, or when do people start doing that?
That's a really good question. No, there were no in a field context. Okay, not garden. I'm talking about fields. I'm a farmer, not a gardener. In field context, you got to get a lot of work done. So you're using a hoe. As far as, special formulas and magic potions and stuff, if that was used, which is very rarely, that would be used in a garden context. Now, chemicals or herbicides replaced the hoe. It reduced the amount of work, and that's how we use it today. When I was coming up in the 90s, they still cultivated corn in South Carolina with tractors, with cultivators still. That has pretty much gone by the wayside.
So here we are on June 1st. We had a rainy weekend, but we had a very, very dry May.
Goodness.
And maybe that's good for giving you fewer weeds, but not really good for much else. Can you tell us a little bit about How's your farmer mindset? And when you have a month like May as dry as it was, are there things that you can do not knowing what the weather is going to do?
That's a really good question. You try not to get worked up about it. Worry is just a killer. What you do is, there's two things that you do with farming. There's two things. Hope, hope it rains, hope it doesn't. You got to keep the hope. Hope for this, hope for that. And the other thing is, and hope will help you push through that dry spell. It did me. I just thought, well, it's going to rain eventually. You look at the tobacco, it started to wilt. Well, I hope it rains. You just keep that going. The other thing is perseverance. You cannot ever give up. If you've got those two things, you're going to be fine as a farmer. That's what got me through that dry spell there in May, when there was hardly any rain. We got some right at the end. And it looks really good now. Now the hope says, we're saved. Perseverance says, now let's get to work, get growing here. We're going to be fine now.
All right, so Doug was curious if there was any evidence of circular hoes in the 18th century.
Circular hoe. Now, remember, my perspective is with farming. So we use those, and they're hoes that can be made en masse. With gardening, I think they have what's called a stirrup hoe. You're probably familiar with that. It's shaped like this and has a little blade like that, and you glide it through the earth. It's really great. I use it at home, believe it or not. I do live in the 21st century. I use it at home a lot to get weeds out. But I have a broad hoe at home too that I use as well.
And I think we have time for one last question. And Dan asked if, the work ever stopped, or you sort of weeding all year round. But I think sort of piggybacking on that, you talked about how to do this, but talk about how do you mentally keep up with this? Because I'm sure a lot of folks can relate, whether it's just pulling weeds out of their driveway or in their own gardens. It seems like it never ends. And you have a very sunny attitude. You seem to love taking care of these weeds, get rid of them. How do you think about this, over the long haul?
Well, there is an end to the weeding, and that's called frost, okay? But with corn, not so much tobacco, there's something called lay-by, and that was a certain time of year. It's around the 1st of August or so. If you picture corn leaves, or corn blades as we call them, growing in the middle of the row, and once they do that, once they cross, it shades out underneath. They called that lay-by. So what you need to do is cultivate with a horse and hoe and get all the weeds out you can as they're growing. It's a timing thing that's really important. But how do you keep doing this in the blazing hot sun? And believe me, it gets really hot here. I have plenty of tricks for it. In the videos you probably saw me with good posture, good form. Good form is everything. It is with athletics. And while I'm plowing along with the horse, I'm just strolling right along. You got to relax. Let the horse and the plow do the work. That's the key. The other thing with hoeing is, when I was growing up, the green bean rows seemed forever in my mom and dad's garden. And I always looked ahead to what I had to do. What you do, I have all these little tricks, is you look behind to what you already done. So how do you look not ahead? You look right there. And all you do is you think about that weed right there where you're going to kill. Some people tell me that, they solve all the world's problems while they're thinking about it. I don't do it at all. What I do is think about the work. I don't know, you might want to call it the Zen of hoeing, but that works for me. Use whatever works so you can keep going.
Thanks so much, Ed, for this live stream about weeds, but maybe more about persistence with technology and with weeds and with everything else. And as always, we are very grateful to the donors and their generosity who make programs like this possible. Thank you. To learn how you can contribute to presentations like this, please follow the link pinned to the comments below or visit us at colonialwilliamsburg.org. Ed, do you have any final thoughts to send us all on our way today?
Yeah, if you want to see the ultimate weed killing here, come visit Rachel and another wonderful volunteer, Mike Cecere, and I here at Prentice Field and watch us kill weeds. We're really good at it.